Hi, and welcome to the seminar on privacy, data, and ownership. It's called Who Owns What and Why It's Important. And in this, we'll be looking at your privacy, the data that you generate when you work online, and the things that you create, and who owns those, who uses them, and why that is important. The relationship between what we create and the digital footprint we make is the balance between ownership, practicality, and privacy. And anytime that we work online, especially when we're using free services, the balance is usually between ownership, practicality, and privacy. Ownership in terms of who owns the data that you generate and who owns the things that you make. Practicality in terms of the tools that we use are free and they're often very useful. They're often the tools that the people we work with or we teach use as well. And privacy, which is that when we use these free tools, we often give up some or a lot of our privacy and some or a lot of our ownership, or we share that ownership, in return for the practicality those tools give us. When we use online services that are free, we often agree to share ownership of what we post, create, and upload. We may not be aware of this. It's usually in the terms of service that we agree to and usually don't read. But that's often the bargain that we make. We also barter our privacy and our data as part of how we pay. Each time that we do something online, anytime that we take an action online, we leave a small fingerprint of data behind us, and somebody is probably gathering that up and collecting it and using it. And that's part of the bargain that we make as well. Almost any aspect of the impact, effect, experience, and existence we have online is up for negotiation, trade, transfer, and sale. And in all likelihood, unless you're extraordinarily careful and very knowledgeable, that's actually what's happening to the things that you make and the things that you do. This bargain, this barter, there are two main strands that we are going to take a look at. There's what's sometimes called our digital footprint. This is used in a variety of ways, but in this presentation, we're using it to talk about the things that we make online. And our digital exhaust, which is the data that we often unconsciously generate. We'll look at both of these in this presentation. Your digital exhaust, which is, as we said, the data you generate, and your digital footprint, the things that you create. These terms aren't imprecise. They're used in different ways by different commentators, and different people use them to talk about slightly different things. So we don't make a claim for this terminology to be correct in all circumstances. But in this presentation, we use digital exhaust to mean the data that you generate, and your digital footprint or fingerprint to mean the things that you create online. So let's begin with digital exhaust, the data that we unconsciously and consciously generate. Your data, what it is, and why it's useful. Each of us leaves a data trail online. We're going to take a look at what that data is, very roughly, and also why people find it useful, why people are looking to mine that information, and why people are willing to trade free services in return for it. Your data, the sites that you visit, the services you use, the places you go in the real world, as well as online, your contacts, your address book, the connections that you make, the device that you use, that's your smartphone or your desktop or your laptop, its operating system, the software you have installed on it, the things you buy, the things you share, the things you make, and the things you sell, your likes, your dislikes, your interests, and pastimes. These are all part of your data. This isn't a complete picture of your data, but it's a good picture of what lots of websites like to collect and know about you. and your data is to them an asset. They will track many sites, will track the sites that you visit. They'll track the services that you use on their own site and on other sites as well. They'll track the places that you go online, and if they can, often in the actual real world. If you share your contacts and your phone address book or your email address book with them, they'll probably take a copy of that. And the people that you connect with online, that you talk to, that you comment on, that you chat to, that you tweet with, they're tracking that too and cross-referencing it in a database and holding it and selling it and using it. The device that you use to surf the internet, they're keeping tabs on that as well, and that's very useful because if they, for instance, Google will check the device that you use, and they'll have files linked to that device about where that device has been and what it does. Because if they can't get identifying information on the individual who uses it, being able to identify the device is just as good. And they'll do that by getting the device's fingerprint, its operating system, and the software that it uses. You can track and you can profile a laptop or a smartphone with incredible accuracy if you have a good picture of how the person using it has customized it. You can track a device across the internet and be really, really certain of the person that you're tracking, of their uniqueness, that device is tied to that specific person by getting a profile of that device. And websites will track the things that you buy and the things that you share and the things that you make and sell. And they'll also track your likes and dislikes, interests and pastimes. Maybe you've told them, maybe you haven't. Maybe you filled in a questionnaire or a survey or a form that has those. Or maybe that service is just tracking the things that you search for and is getting the information from that. I know, for example, when I do a search for a new tablet, all of the ads on the newspapers that I read advertise tablets to me. When I check for a new smartphone, suddenly the ads change to smartphones. And I have a farm here. When I check for farm tools, suddenly I'm getting advertisements across sites all across the internet, which are to do with tools for farming. And that's because websites are tracking my likes, dislikes, interests, and pastimes, and they're tracking and using the searches that I do for them. Advertisers and other companies will pay to know who you are. They'll pay to know what you do. They will pay money to know what you like and dislike. They'll pay money to know who you know, where you work, where you live, and where you go, offline and online. And this is one of the reasons why your data is an asset that is traded and sold and bartered by services, with you in return for free services, and with advertisers in return for profits, revenue, and money. Your data translates directly into an asset that companies, websites, and services can make money from. Your digital exhaust is the data you generate. It identifies you very uniquely online. It's the data that you choose to generate. It's the comments that you make and the posts that you put up online. It's the tweets that you send to people. It's the services that you download. It's the places that you go. And it's also the data that you generate passively without choice or knowledge. Things like your IP address, which is a unique number that's designated to the internet connection that you use. This data exhaust is the map and history of where you have been online, and sometimes off, and what you have done, and who you have connected with online. And it is an asset for the services that trade them. There's a saying on the internet, and it's completely true. If you are not paying for it, you are not the customer. You are the product being sold. This has been around for a couple of years. It was posted on a forum by a user called Blue Beetle at 1:41 p.m., which is another piece of data. And it's absolutely true. Free services if you're not paying for their services, you're not a customer, you're the thing that they're selling. The information about you is what they're collecting, harvesting, processing, and using. And they're probably selling it to somebody who's going to target you with specific advertising. The services we use for free to make our digital mark in the world, and make money from us in turn. They are created to generate and harvest our data. They are created to find out who we are, what we do, where we go, what we like and what we dislike, who we know and who we talk to, what we love and what we hate, where we go, what we buy, what we sell, and what we share. And all this information is harvested and is sold, sometimes individually and sometimes as large blocks of data, to people who want to use it, to market, to understand, to sell, and to track. We use services for free, social media, Facebook, Twitter. We use online tools for free to create things. And in return, we allow those services to exploit our data. This is often an explicit agreement. We often sign or agree to the terms of services without reading them, but usually those terms of services will explicitly state companies own our data and can do pretty much whatever they like with it. They can sell it, they can keep it, they can pass it on to third parties, they can use it. It's usually an explicit agreement that we make with them. For example, any service that uses GPS, the Global Positioning System, tracks our location. So when we use a map app, for example, if we use Google Maps on our phone while we're driving to give us directions, or if we use geotagged photos on Instagram, Instagram will let you automatically add a geotag to your photo, which is your location information in geolocation form. You can geotag tweets and it will do exactly the same thing. Maybe your smartphone has a compass or an astronomy app or some games. Where you are is valuable information, and this is traded data that we barter for access to almost any GPS-based service we use. It's collected, collated, used, and sold. If you think about it, if you're using GPS, if you're using Google Maps on your smartphone while you're driving, your smartphone is sending out your location to Google every couple of seconds. And that's accurate down to about a couple of meters. It's accurate enough for them sometimes to be able to guide you as you walk instead of as you drive. And that information is harvested and stored by Google, who also know who you are, and they know the unique identifier for your smartphone, and they know that you've signed into their service, and they probably have access to your email, and they're cross-referencing that. And this is all information they collect, collate, use, and sometimes sell. And when you use their services, you agree to this. Email services often scan our communications for keywords and sell to us on the basis of what they find. So if you are sending or receiving emails and you're using a free service, that service probably has the right to scan your email and hunt out keywords to understand what demographic you fit into. Other services will scan our contacts, the people that we know, or the IP address that we send and receive emails from. They'll use our hobbies, our thoughts, our interests, and we agree to this access and its usage as an asset when we use the services. Social media track our relationships, posts, interests, and surfing habits, and sell the knowledge to whoever is willing to buy it. Or they use it themselves to sell targeted products to us. If you're signed into Facebook and you're surfing the net, Facebook know where you're going. If you're a Facebook member and you go onto the Irish Times website and you see the small, tiny Facebook button at the bottom of the page, Facebook know that you're there and they know the specific article that you're on. If you use Facebook to sign into other services, they know what those services are. And if you use it to comment on services, they know what you're saying. Google store your searches, save your location data from your phone or tablet or Google Map usage. They save your contacts, your interactions, and track you across devices that you use and the services you use on them. They track your Google sign-in on newspapers, forums, websites, and services, the ads you click, the documents on their services that you make, the emails on Gmail that you send and receive, the videos that you watch on YouTube and that you post on YouTube, the hangouts that you are involved with. Anytime that you use their services, you're probably using your sign-in to Google, and you're probably using a device that you often use, and this means that all of the information across all those devices, all those services, and all those sign-ins is tied to you. There's a saying on some parts of the internet that Facebook know what you say, but Google know what you think. And this is an explicit agreement we give them. We give them the rights to our data in this way. We sign away our privacy when we use those services. This data is collected and collated, it's cross-referenced and shared. It's done to target with ads, to sell you services, to deliver things to you that are informed by your interests, location, connections, and activity. It's much easier for an advertiser to sell to you if they know who you are and what you like, and what you dislike, and where you go. Unless you are extremely cautious and very well informed, every online activity generates data. Your digital exhaust is constantly churning out small bits and bytes of information about you. This is from Forbes magazine, from Tamlin McGee, and it's a very good summary of the agreement that we make. By using a free service, data becomes the currency with which a user pays. There is no such thing as a free lunch, and there's no such thing as a free internet service. If you think about it, why would an organization spend millions or potentially billions of euros to provide services to individuals without making any money back? And one of the ways they make money back is by using the data that we generate, by using them. And now we're going to take a look at our digital footprint, the things that we make. And we're going to take a look at the things we make on many different services, what they are, and how companies use them. And this is another potential revenue stream for companies, and it's something that, again, we explicitly sign up for, and we may not be aware of. Online, we create content. We take and post photographs. We make videos and comments. We write emails. We write posts and record podcasts. We use online office programs. We upload presentations, create theses, make music. These are our fingerprint or our footprint. When we create online or upload what we have said or made, we often agree to share ownership with the services we use to create or host them. Any content you post or create is probably licensed to the platform you post it on to be used, traded, or sold as the company sees fit. The photos you post on Twitter and Facebook, they have a global license to exploit these as they see fit. And they have the right for those rights to be farmed out to a third party. The right to distribute, utilize, alter, sell, or deploy the content you create for any purpose, anywhere, at any time, and the right to delegate or sell those rights to another. Again, this is explicit. We sign up for these services and we agree to these conditions. We may not read the terms of service. The last time I checked, Facebook's terms of service ran to about 70,000 words, which is slightly longer than the Shakespeare play A Midsummer Night's Dream. Most of us don't read our terms of service, but it's key to know that when we use free services, we're probably signing away some or a large amount of the rights that we have to that content. We typically retain that right as well, so the content that we post or create, we can repurpose, we can sell, we can trade, we can use in any way that we see fit. We retain those rights, but we give those rights also to the website and companies that we host or make the material on. Often it's the case that social media and websites that we use have every right that we have to the content that we make, apart from actual outright ownership. For example, Facebook reserve the right to use the photos and any content you upload for whatever purposes they see fit. Your photo may appear as an ad. They may be transferred to a third party, which is not Facebook, for them to use in any way that they see fit. They may be sold, altered and adapted without your consent, anywhere, at any time, with no royalties and no consent. Facebook have also recently successfully legally defended their right to use the content posted and created by those under the age of consent in the USA. Use of Facebook is now considered sufficient legal consent for images, data, and the content created by kids to be sold, traded, and used. And that's kind of a unique moment, I think, in our history, that we're bypassing parental consent. And Facebook's defense essentially mounted to, when you sign up for Facebook, you sign up as a teenager, knowing that you should get parental consent for your social media usage. They don't have to get parental consent if your son or daughter signs up for Facebook and posts the photo, and they're the age of 14. Facebook can attach that photo to ads, and there's not very much you can do about it. It's quite incredible they've managed to bypass parental consent in that way, but they have, and this holds true for adults as well. YouTube reserve the right to use what you upload in whatever way they choose, everywhere and at any time. They have exactly the same rights to your content as you do, except for actual ownership. There's no royalties, there's no consent, anywhere, at any time. When you post a video to YouTube, this is the rights that they have to it. And when you sign up for your account, that's the explicit agreement you make with them. Twitter have the rights to use any photos you post for any purposes they see fit. They do not own your tweets, but you probably don't either. And they are archived by numerous people and are usually treated as public domain. Anyone can quote, reproduce, or share them. And they also reserve the right to sell your data as well to a third party. And this is an interesting thing about things we post on social media. A lot of things are considered to be public domain. Newspapers, for example, consider tweets to be public domain, and will publish them without asking your consent. But they will attribute them to you. And I guess this is another part of the agreement that we make when we post things online. They are endlessly reproducible. It's incredibly easy for another person to take them and reproduce them pretty much anywhere they like. It's also incredibly easy for somebody to archive them. This gives us another reality to deal with, which is that anything we put on the internet is probably permanent. Your tweets almost certainly are. Your Facebook posts can be permanent, although you can delete them. And your YouTube videos are probably permanent as well, because even though YouTube will eventually take them down, somebody somewhere has a copy of them. They're archived by some organization. Many services reserve the right to use your content after you stop using the service. So, for example, with the Google Office suite, Google Drive, they will, if you leave the material on there, they will reserve the right to use your content that you've posted on Google Drive, even if you haven't used the service in quite some time. Some services, for example Facebook, reserve the right to use your content until you and everyone you shared it with has deleted it. And this is interesting. If you post a photo on Facebook, they have the right to use it. If you take the photo down and delete it, but you shared it with people, they still have the right to use it. the only way that you can be guaranteed that Facebook no longer have rights to the things that you've put up is if you put something up and don't share it, or you put something up and you delete it and everybody you shared it with deleted. And most organizations reserve the right to change their terms of use without consulting you, and that can make it very difficult to keep track of your rights, because they have the right to change your rights, and they have the right to change their license terms, and they have the right to change the conditions that they use your material and your creations and your data without consulting you, although they will give you notice. Our data, our photos, our artifacts and our location, our creations and our online activity are the currency with which we pay for what we use. Our fingerprint, our footprint, and our exhaust are things we commoditize when we use free online services. Online, we are the product. And I think as educators, that means that when we encourage our students to use these tools, we engage them in a barter that comes with responsibilities. We enlist our students in this barter, this transaction of convenience and utility, for their privacy and their data when we employ these technologies in our classes. Whether we choose to use them or not, we should do so with open eyes and full knowledge. So I'm not in any sense suggesting that we shouldn't do this, but we do need to ask ourselves, what does it mean when we get our students to use free online tools and social media and Gmail and free emails online and things like that? We are getting them to engage in a barter and a bargain. We are getting them to barter access to their privacy, and we're getting them to barter with their control and ownership of the things they create. And if we're doing that, we need to do that ourselves with open eyes and full knowledge. And we probably need to think about how we impart that knowledge to them and how we get them to think about the bargain that we are making and they are making, and what that means for them and how they engage with it. Ultimately, we must forge our policies and practices with these terms of use in mind, and that's what they are. What we do with them is up to us. What we do with these tools, whether we choose to use them or not, that is up to us. And how we frame these terms and conditions for our students and encourage responsibility and talk about the meaning of modern privacy is something that, as educators, is likely to become more rather than less pressing. We need to think about the fact that we are getting our students to sign up for Gmail accounts as part of our educational institution. My college automatically assigns a Gmail email address to everybody, and you use that to sign in for a number of services. We need to think about the meaning of modern privacy, and we need to think about the types of conversations we need to have with our students as well. As part of that, as do we have a responsibility to them because we're asking them to sign up for these bargains, and do we have a responsibility to make those terms and conditions and that barter and trade explicit to them, and to talk about what it means with them. For a good and easy to understand summary of privacy and ownership, TOSDR.org, which stands for Terms of Service Didn't Read.org, covers most of the social media sites that you might use. It's a great site. It's voluntary. It doesn't collect your data, and it will give you an overview of all of the social media sites you're going to use and what their privacy policies are and their content ownership policies are. And it provides an easy summary and also a more in-depth explanation as well. I found it very, very easy to use, and it's kept up to date. It's very, very kind of, as we said earlier, the sites can change their terms of service without your consent. They can change them unilaterally by themselves, and tosdor.org do a very good job of keeping up to date with changes. And if you're looking for information to have that conversation with your students or to understand your own social media and online tool usage, it's a really good website to give you an overview of the privacy, data, and licensing environment that you're using these tools in. You can also check on mookie.org/data for more resources, and there's lesson plans and resources for privacy and articles about that particular stuff there. And there's a lot more resources on the website, articles, explainers, videos, tutorials, lesson plans, pro and con arguments and things like that. I hope the seminar was useful. And who owns what? And please post your thoughts on Twitter using the #Mookie hashtag if you're doing the course. Post your thoughts on your blog. If you find resources, please share them with us either on the website, on your own blog, or over Twitter. And let's have some of that conversation together. Thank you very much.